Hello there, and welcome to the Gentle Nature channel. Take a moment now to settle yourself somewhere comfortable. Let your shoulders drop just a little. There's no rush here, no urgency. We're going to spend some quiet time together exploring one of nature's most beautiful secrets, the way plants breathe in sunlight and turn it into life itself. It's a gentle process happening all around you right now, even in the darkness. So breathe slowly and let's begin. Somewhere near you, perhaps just outside your window, a leaf is catching light. It might be the broad leaf of an oak tree, or the delicate needle of a pine, or even the soft blade of grass growing by a pathway. Whatever leaf it is, something miraculous is happening there. Something so quiet you would never hear it, so subtle you would never see it, yet so powerful that it fills the whole world with the air you're breathing right now. This process has a name, photosynthesis, but don't let the word intimidate you. It's just a gentle conversation between sunlight and green things. Nothing more complicated than that. A whisper between the sky and the earth. Inside every green leaf, there are millions of tiny chambers, smaller than you could ever see with your eyes alone. If you could shrink down and walk inside a leaf, you would find yourself in a world of soft green light, where everything glows with a peaceful emerald hue. These tiny chambers are called chloroplasts, and they're filled with something called chlorophyll, which is what makes plants green. Chlorophyll is like a collector of light. Imagine standing outside on a sunny morning, holding your hands up to catch the warmth on your palms. That's what chlorophyll does, except it catches individual particles of light, photons, that have traveled 93 million miles from the sun just to reach that one leaf. When a photon of sunlight touches a molecule of chlorophyll, something beautiful happens. The chlorophyll doesn't just absorb the light, it dances with it. The energy from that tiny particle of light excites the chlorophyll molecule, making it vibrate with possibility, like the first note of a gentle song. This excited chlorophyll then passes that energy along, like a whispered secret moving from one friend to another. The energy travels through the leaf in a chain reaction so elegant, so perfectly choreographed, that scientists still marvel at its beauty. While this is happening, the leaf is also breathing. Through tiny pores on its surface, pores so small that thousands of them could fit on the head of a pin, the leaf draws in carbon dioxide from the air. This is the same gas you exhale with every breath, and the plant welcomes it like a gift. At the same time, the roots of the plant are drawing up water from the soil. This water travels up through the stem or trunk, moving through channels so fine they're almost like threads, until it reaches the leaves. The journey might take hours or days, depending on how tall the plant is, but the water always arrives, patient and persistent. Now, inside the leaf, these three ingredients come together: the energy from sunlight, the carbon dioxide from the air, and the water from the soil. In those tiny green chambers, in a process that takes only a fraction of a second, they combine and transform. The carbon dioxide and water, energized by sunlight, rearrange themselves into something entirely new. They become sugar, glucose, which is food for the plant. And in the process, they release oxygen as a gentle byproduct, breathing it out through those same tiny pores. This oxygen drifts up into the air, invisible and pure. Some of it might reach you in the next few moments. Some of it might travel across the world. Every breath you take contains oxygen that was made this way, in the quiet darkness inside a leaf, where sunlight and water met and created the very air of life. A single tree, standing peacefully in a forest, might have hundreds of thousands of leaves. Each one is performing this same gentle miracle over and over, millions of times every second. Together, all those leaves might produce enough oxygen in one day to keep 2 people breathing for a year. Think about that for a moment. 2 people living and laughing and dreaming, sustained for an entire year by one tree's quiet work under the sun. It's a gift given without asking, a service rendered in complete silence. The sugar that the plant creates doesn't just disappear. It travels through the plant's body, providing energy for growth. Some of it goes to the roots, helping them push deeper into the earth. Some of it goes to the flowers, helping them bloom. Some of it is stored away for winter when the sun is scarce and the days are short. In a forest, this process creates a rhythm, a pulse of life that moves through every living thing. The trees breathe out and the animals breathe in. The animals breathe out and the trees breathe in. It's a perfect circle, a conversation that has been going on for hundreds of millions of years. The very first organisms to perform photosynthesis were tiny, single-celled creatures living in ancient oceans. They were called cyanobacteria, and they were blue-green, like the color of a deep tropical sea. Billions of years ago, these microscopic beings began capturing sunlight and releasing oxygen, and slowly, gradually, they changed the entire atmosphere of Earth. Before these tiny organisms began their work, there was almost no oxygen in the air. The sky might have been a different color. Nothing could breathe the way we breathe now. But over millions of years, these patient little cells filled the oceans and then the air with oxygen, creating the world as we know it. Some of those ancient cyanobacteria were eventually absorbed by other cells, and they became the chloroplasts that now live inside every green plant. So, when you look at a leaf, you're seeing the descendants of some of the oldest living things on Earth, still doing the same gentle work they have always done. Not all plants are green all the time, of course. In autumn, many trees stop making chlorophyll, and their leaves reveal other colors that were hidden underneath all along, brilliant reds and oranges and yellows. But even as the chlorophyll fades, those leaves have spent months capturing light and making oxygen, contributing their part to the great breathing of the world. Some plants have adapted to perform photosynthesis in remarkable ways. Cacti, for instance, living in deserts where water is precious, have learned to be efficient. They open their pores only at night, when it's cooler and less water will evaporate. And they store the carbon dioxide until the sun rises. Then, with their pores safely closed against the heat, they use the stored carbon dioxide and the sunlight to make their food. It's like preparing all your ingredients the night before, then cooking in the morning. Water lilies float on the surface of quiet ponds, their broad leaves spread out like platforms to catch as much sunlight as possible. The top surface of their leaves is waxy and water repellent, so rain simply beads up and rolls off. Underneath, the leaves have large air spaces that help them float, and their pores are all on the top surface, facing the open air, where they can breathe freely. Moss, growing in the shadowy corners of forests, has become so efficient at photosynthesis that it can survive in places where there's very little light. The chlorophyll in moss is packed so densely that it can capture almost every photon that reaches it, making the most of the dim, filtered sunlight that trickles down through the canopy above. In the ocean, seaweeds and kelp perform photosynthesis just like land plants do. Even though they live entirely underwater, the light that reaches them has already traveled through layers of water, which filters out certain colors. So these marine plants have developed different types of chlorophyll that can capture the blue and green wavelengths that penetrate deepest into the sea. Some seaweeds are red or brown instead of green because they contain additional pigments that help them capture light in the underwater world. But underneath those other colors, the green chlorophyll is still there, still catching photons, still making oxygen that dissolves into the water and allows fish and whales and countless other creatures to breathe. Even in the depths of winter, when snow covers the ground and the air is cold, evergreen trees continue their photosynthesis. Their needles are specially designed to withstand freezing temperatures, and they keep their chlorophyll all year long. The process slows down in the cold, like everything else in winter, but it doesn't stop completely. The trees rest, but they still breathe, still contribute their quiet share of oxygen to the winter air. Young seedlings just emerging from the soil have enormous appetites for light. Their first leaves unfurl with an urgency, reaching upward, spreading wide, to catch every available ray of sunshine. These first leaves are often shaped differently from the leaves the plant will grow later. They're designed for maximum efficiency, to gather as much energy as possible so the seedling can establish itself and grow strong. In a rainforest, where the canopy is thick and sunlight is scarce on the forest floor, some plants have become climbers. They grow up the trunks of larger trees, reaching toward the light. Their leaves are arranged in spiral patterns to minimize shading, each leaf positioned carefully so it doesn't block the leaf below it from receiving its share of sunlight. The amount of oxygen produced by photosynthesis is staggering. Scientists estimate that plants and algae together produce about 330 billion tons of oxygen every year. That's enough to replace all the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere roughly every 2,000 years. It's a continuous renewal, a perpetual gift. Interestingly, about half of the oxygen in our atmosphere comes not from forests or grasslands, but from tiny organisms in the ocean called phytoplankton. These microscopic floating plants drift in the sunlit surface waters of seas and oceans too small to see individually, but so numerous that they color entire regions of the ocean green when they bloom. A single drop of seawater might contain thousands of these tiny photosynthesizers, each one capturing sunlight and releasing oxygen. When you breathe in at the beach, some of that fresh sea air was made just moments before by these invisible workers drifting and dancing in the waves. Trees in a forest don't all photosynthesize at the same rate. The tallest trees, with their crowns in full sunlight, work the hardest during the day. The smaller trees in the understory, receiving only dappled light that filters through from above, work more gently, more slowly, making the most of whatever light reaches them. Even the time of day matters. Photosynthesis typically peaks around midday when the sun is highest and strongest. In the early morning and late afternoon, when the light is softer and more golden, the process continues but at a gentler pace. And at night, it stops altogether. though the plant continues to live and breathe, using some of the sugar it made during the day to fuel its nighttime activities. On a cloudy day, you might think photosynthesis would struggle, but plants are remarkably adaptable. They can use diffuse light, the soft, even illumination that comes through clouds, almost as effectively as direct sunlight. In fact, some plants actually prefer cloudy conditions because the light is more evenly distributed and they don't have to deal with the stress of intense heat. The leaves of plants are positioned to make the most of available light. If you look at a tree from above, you might notice that the leaves rarely overlap. They're arranged in patterns that mathematicians call underscore, quote, underscore, zero, underscore, which ensures that each leaf gets its maximum share of sunlight without casting too much shadow on its neighbors. This arrangement isn't planned by the plant in any conscious way. It's simply the result of each leaf growing toward the light, adjusting its position slightly to find the best angle. Over time, through countless small adjustments, the whole tree becomes a living sculpture designed to catch light. Houseplants do the same thing on your windowsill. If you notice a plant leaning toward the window, it's not trying to escape. It's simply growing toward the light source, adjusting itself for optimal photosynthesis. Turn the plant around, and over the next few days or weeks, it will slowly turn back, always orienting itself toward brightness. In the autumn, before deciduous trees drop their leaves, they perform a final act of efficiency. They withdraw nutrients from the leaves, including some of the proteins that made up the chlorophyll molecules, and store those nutrients in their branches and trunk and roots. This is why leaves change color. As the green chlorophyll breaks down and is reabsorbed, other pigments that were always there become visible. Those final weeks of photosynthesis, even as the leaves are beginning to change, contribute to the tree's reserves for winter. The sugar made during those last sunny days of autumn will help sustain the tree through the cold months ahead and fuel the growth of new leaves in spring. Spring itself is triggered partly by light. As the days grow longer, plants sense the increasing duration of sunlight, and this triggers hormonal changes that cause buds to swell and burst. The first tender leaves of spring are pale and delicate, but they're already equipped with chloroplasts, already ready to begin capturing light the moment they unfold. These young spring leaves are particularly efficient at photosynthesis. They're soft and thin, which allows light to penetrate easily, and they're positioned to catch the spring sun when it's still relatively gentle. As the season progresses and the sun grows stronger, the leaves may thicken and develop protective layers to prevent too much water loss. In grasslands and meadows, photosynthesis happens close to the ground. Grass blades are like tiny solar panels, each one oriented vertically to catch light from sunrise to sunset. The constant photosynthesis of grasslands makes them remarkably productive. They can support vast herds of grazing animals, all of whom ultimately depend on the grass's ability to capture sunlight and turn it into food. When you walk through a meadow in summer, you're walking through a sea of quiet industry. Every blade of grass is working, capturing carbon dioxide from the air, drawing water from the soil, combining them with sunlight to create the sugars that will become grass seeds, new shoots, deeper roots. The meadow hums with invisible activity, all of it peaceful, all of it powered by light. Photosynthesis is so fundamental to life that it's almost invisible to us, like breathing. We don't think about it, but it's happening all around us all the time. The wooden desk you might be sitting at was built from trees that spent decades capturing sunlight and turning it into cellulose, the woody material that gave them structure and strength. The cotton in your clothes came from plants that used photosynthesis to grow and produce fibers. The food you ate today, whether it was vegetables or meat, all traces back to photosynthesis. The vegetables captured sunlight directly. The animals ate plants that captured sunlight. Every calorie of energy in your body ultimately came from the sun, captured and transformed by green leaves. Even fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, are ancient sunlight captured by plants and tiny marine organisms millions of years ago through photosynthesis, then buried and compressed over eons until they became the fuels we use today. In a very real sense, when you turn on a light or drive a car, you're releasing energy that was captured from the sun in the deep past. But living plants do it better because they release oxygen as they work, and they do it cleanly, without smoke or pollution. A forest is a solar power plant that also purifies the air, provides habitat for countless creatures, stabilizes the soil, and creates beauty. All of this from sunlight, water, and air. The efficiency of photosynthesis varies from plant to plant. Some plants, like sugarcane and corn, use a more efficient version of the process that allows them to grow very quickly. They have a special pathway for capturing carbon dioxide that works especially well in hot, sunny conditions. These are sometimes called C4 plants, and they're among the most productive plants on Earth. Other plants, like most trees and many garden vegetables, use the more common pathway, sometimes called C3. It's slightly less efficient, but it works well in a wider range of conditions, including cooler temperatures and lower light levels. Neither system is better. They're simply adapted to different environments, different ways of living. Cacti and succulents use yet another variation called cam photosynthesis, which allows them to survive in extremely dry conditions. They can close their pores during the hot day to conserve water, then open them at night to collect carbon dioxide. It's a slower process, which is why cacti grow so slowly, but it's perfect for the harsh environments they call home. All of these variations are nature's solutions to the same basic challenge: how to capture light and turn it into life. Each plant has found its own answer, its own way of participating in the great conversation between earth and sky. In a garden, you might see all of these strategies at once. The tomato plants using C3 photosynthesis, growing steadily in the summer sun. The corn towering above them, using its C4 efficiency to grow tall and produce abundant ears. Perhaps a succulent in a pot, slowly and patiently, doing its cam photosynthesis, needing little water, content with occasional sunshine. The color of light matters too. Chlorophyll is green because it reflects green light. It doesn't use that wavelength. Instead, it absorbs mostly red and blue light, which is why plants grown under artificial lights often use reddish-purple LED lamps. Those lamps are providing exactly the wavelengths that chlorophyll uses most efficiently. In a forest, this creates interesting patterns. The light that filters down to the forest floor is often greenish because the canopy above has absorbed most of the red and blue wavelengths. Plants that live in the understory have adapted to use this leftover light, making the most of what's available. Some rainforest plants have developed a beautiful solution to low light. Their leaves are almost black. They're not actually black, of course, but they contain so much chlorophyll packed so densely that they absorb almost every photon that touches them. In the dim understory, this is a survival strategy. Waste no light. Use everything. Photosynthesis is also affected by temperature. Too cold, and the chemical reactions slow down. Too hot, and the plant must close its pores to prevent water loss, which also stops carbon dioxide from entering. This is why many plants grow most actively in spring and fall, when temperatures are moderate and the balance is just right. On a perfect day, warm but not hot, sunny but not scorching, with plenty of water in the soil, a plant might photosynthesize at its maximum rate. You can almost sense it if you sit quietly in a garden on such a day. There's a feeling of growth, of quiet vitality, as if you could hear the plants breathing if you listened carefully enough. Of course, you can't actually hear it. The process is completely silent. But there's a quality to the air in a thriving garden, a freshness that comes from all that oxygen being released, all those leaves breathing out the air that you breathe in. In the tropics, where it's warm year-round and rainfall is abundant, photosynthesis never really stops. Rainforests are some of the most productive ecosystems on Earth because the plants there can photosynthesize continuously without the interruption of winter. The constant production of oxygen, the constant absorption of carbon dioxide makes these forests vital to the entire planet's atmosphere. A single large tree in a rainforest might have a crown covering hundreds of square feet with thousands of leaves, all photosynthesizing simultaneously. The amount of oxygen such a tree produces in a day could support several people, and in a rainforest, there are countless such trees, all working together, creating a green engine that helps regulate the Earth's climate and atmosphere. Even the smallest plants contribute. Ferns unfurling in the shade of larger trees, mosses carpeting fallen logs, tiny flowering plants in the gaps where light breaks through. Each one is capturing carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen, participating in the ancient cycle. Water is essential to photosynthesis, not just as one of the ingredients, but also as the medium that allows everything to happen. Inside the leaf, water creates a fluid environment where molecules can move and meet and react. Without water, the whole delicate process would halt. This is why plants wilt in drought. It's not just that they're thirsty, it's that without water, photosynthesis stops and the plant begins to starve. The leaves droop because the cells lose their internal water pressure. But more critically, the invisible work inside those cells comes to a standstill. When rain finally comes after a drought, you can almost feel the plant's relief. Within hours, leaves perk up and photosynthesis resumes. The plant begins making sugar again, and energy flows through its tissues. Roots drink deeply from the newly moistened soil, pulling up water to replace what was lost. And the cycle of life continues. Morning dew can provide crucial moisture for photosynthesis, especially in places where rainfall is scarce. As the sun rises and warms the leaves, the dew evaporates, but not before some of it has been absorbed through the leaf surface or pulled up through the roots from where it dripped onto the soil. Nature wastes nothing. In coastal areas, fog serves the same purpose. The great redwood forests of California receive much of their moisture from fog that rolls in from the ocean. The tree's needles comb water droplets from the air, and this water drips down to the roots or is absorbed directly by the foliage. This fog drip can be substantial. In some redwood forests, fog contributes as much moisture as rainfall. These ancient trees, some of the tallest living things on Earth, rely on this moisture to keep their photosynthesis going through the dry summer months. Their height is both a challenge and an advantage. It's difficult to pump water all the way to the crown, hundreds of feet in the air. But being so tall means they reach above the fog layer and can collect moisture from passing clouds. The relationship between photosynthesis and transpiration, the evaporation of water from leaves, is a delicate balance. As water evaporates from the tiny pores, it creates a pulling force that helps draw more water up from the roots. This transpiration stream carries dissolved minerals from the soil up to the leaves, providing nutrients the plant needs. But transpiration also means water loss, which is why plants must constantly balance their need to open their pores for carbon dioxide against their need to conserve water. It's a decision made thousands of times a day by each plant, regulated by complex chemical signals and environmental cues. On a humid day, transpiration slows down because there's less difference between the moisture inside the leaf and the moisture in the air. This can actually slow photosynthesis too, because the pores may close partially to regulate water flow, which also reduces carbon dioxide intake. Everything is connected. Desert plants have evolved remarkable adaptations to minimize water loss while still photosynthesizing. Some have reduced their leaves to tiny scales or spines, and they perform photosynthesis in their green stems instead. The stems are often ribbed or pleated, which allows them to expand when they store water and contract when water is scarce. The thick, waxy coating on many desert plants serves a similar purpose. It prevents water from evaporating through the skin of the plant. These adaptations mean desert plants photosynthesize more slowly than plants in wetter environments, but they can survive and even thrive in conditions that would kill most other plants. Photosynthesis in aquatic plants presents different challenges. Water weeds, growing entirely submerged, must absorb carbon dioxide that's dissolved in the water, which diffuses more slowly than carbon dioxide in air. Yet, they've adapted beautifully. Their leaves are often thin and ribbon-like, maximizing surface area for both light capture and gas exchange. Floating plants like duckweed have taken a different approach. They rest on the water surface, where they have access to both atmospheric carbon dioxide and full sunlight. A single duckweed plant is tiny, barely a few millimeters across, but it's a complete photosynthesizing organism capable of doubling its population in just a few days under ideal conditions. Algae, some of the simplest photosynthesizers, can be found everywhere there's water and light. They coat rocks in streams, color puddles green, bloom in ponds and lakes. Each tiny algal cell contains chloroplasts and performs photosynthesis, just like the largest tree. Scale doesn't matter to the process. The same beautiful chemistry works in a microscopic cell or a giant sequoia. In fact, algae are so efficient at photosynthesis that scientists are studying them as a potential source of biofuel. The idea is simple. Algae capture sunlight and carbon dioxide to make oils and sugars, just as they've always done. If we could harness this process on a large scale, we could create fuel from sunlight, water, and air, the same ingredients that plants have been using for billions of years. The sugars produced by photosynthesis don't just feed the plant, they feed entire ecosystems. When a caterpillar eats a leaf, it's consuming sugar that was made from sunlight just hours or days before. When a deer nibbles on tender shoots, when a bee collects nectar from a flower, when a human eats a salad, all of it traces back to photosynthesis. Even fungi, which can't photosynthesize themselves, depend on the process. Many fungi form partnerships with plant roots, exchanging minerals from the soil for sugars from the plant. The plant shares some of the sugar it made through photosynthesis, and in return, the fungus helps the plant access water and nutrients. It's a trade as old as forests themselves. These fungal networks can connect many plants together, creating what some scientists call the, quote, one, an underground internet of sorts, where plants can share resources. A large tree, photosynthesizing abundantly in full sunlight, might share some of its sugar through this network, with smaller plants struggling in the shade. This sharing happens without thought or intention. It's simply how the system works. Excess sugar flows from areas of abundance to areas of need, mediated by fungal partners that take their own small share in return for facilitating the exchange. The forest becomes a community, interconnected through roots and fungi and the shared currency of photosynthesized sugar. Birds and insects that visit flowers are also participating in the economy of photosynthesis. The nectar they drink is almost pure sugar, concentrated energy that the plant made by capturing sunlight. In exchange for this sweet gift, the visitors carry pollen from flower to flower, helping the plant reproduce. It's an elegant bargain. The plant invests some of its photosynthesized energy into making nectar and colorful petals to attract pollinators. The pollinators get food, the plant gets its pollen distributed, and all of it is powered by sunlight transformed in green leaves. Fruits are another way plants use photosynthesis to serve their own purposes. The sweet flesh of an apple, a berry, a mango, all of that is sugar made through photosynthesis, packaged around seeds. Animals eat the fruit, enjoying the sweet energy, and later deposit the seeds far away, helping the plant spread to new locations. Even the tough cellulose that makes up plant cell walls is built from the same sugar molecules produced by photosynthesis. The plant links these molecules together in long chains, creating a strong material that can support stems, trunks, and branches. A towering tree is essentially a sculpture made from air and sunlight, held together by sugar chains. When wood decays, either through burning or rotting, it releases the carbon that was captured from the atmosphere through photosynthesis. The carbon dioxide goes back into the air, ready to be captured again by other plants. It's a cycle without waste, without end. Carbon moving from air to plant to soil and back to air, over and over, in a dance that has continued for hundreds of millions of years. Humans have learned to harness this cycle in agriculture. When we plant crops, we're essentially farming sunlight. We prepare the soil, provide water, and let the plants do what they do best: capture light and turn it into food. Every grain of wheat, every ear of corn, every tomato in your garden is a packet of concentrated sunlight, made edible through photosynthesis. The Green Revolution in agriculture, the dramatic increase in crop yields in the mid-20th century, was partly about improving photosynthesis. Plant breeders developed varieties with larger leaves, better leaf arrangements, and more efficient use of light. These improved plants could capture more sunlight and turn it into more food, helping to feed billions of people. But no human-designed system has yet matched the elegant efficiency of natural photosynthesis. Scientists are still trying to create artificial photosynthesis, machines that could capture sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to produce fuel or food. It's proving extraordinarily difficult to replicate what every green leaf does effortlessly. The challenge isn't just chemistry, it's also about organization. In a leaf, everything is precisely arranged at the molecular level. The chlorophyll molecules are positioned perfectly to catch light and pass energy along. The enzymes that catalyze the reactions are held in just the right orientation. Water and carbon dioxide are delivered exactly where they're needed. This nanoscale precision is the result of billions of years of evolution, of countless small improvements, of trial and error on a geological timescale. Each leaf is a masterpiece of molecular engineering, assembled by the plant itself following instructions encoded in its DNA. And yet, despite this complexity, the overall process is robust and reliable. Plants photosynthesize in deserts and rainforests, in Arctic tundra and tropical swamps, on mountain peaks and in ocean depths. They've adapted the basic process to work in almost every environment on Earth where there's at least a little light and water. This adaptability is one of the great triumphs of evolution. The core machinery of photosynthesis is ancient and conserved. It's been passed down from those first cyanobacteria to every green plant alive today. But each species has tweaked and modified it to suit their particular circumstances. A water lily's photosynthesis is tuned for life on a pond's surface. A cactus's photosynthesis is optimized for desert survival. A moss's photosynthesis works in deep shade. Same basic process, infinite variations, each one perfectly suited to its environment. When you look at a forest or a garden with this understanding, it transforms what you see. Those aren't just pretty green leaves. They're solar panels, air purifiers, oxygen factories, and food producers all in one. Every plant is working quietly and constantly to turn light into life. And it's all happening now, as you read these words, in the park near your home, in the forests across the country, in the oceans that cover most of the planet. Billions upon billions of chloroplasts are capturing photons, splitting water molecules, combining carbon and hydrogen into sugar, releasing oxygen as a gift. You don't have to do anything to make it happen. You don't have to understand all the details of electron transport chains or carbon fixation cycles. You just have to breathe, and somewhere a plant is making the oxygen you need. It's a partnership that requires nothing from you except existence. In the winter, when deciduous trees are bare and dormant, photosynthesis slows but doesn't stop completely in the ecosystem. Evergreen trees keep working through the cold months, though more slowly. Moss and lichen continue their patient work. Even grass, dormant and brown on the surface, may still have green tissue near the ground, still photosynthesizing on sunny winter days when the temperature rises above freezing. Spring's return is marked by an explosion of photosynthesis. As temperatures rise and days lengthen, stored sugars fuel the growth of new leaves, which immediately begin capturing light and producing even more sugar. It's a positive feedback loop. The plant invests its reserves to make photosynthesizing leaves, which then make more sugar than the plant invested, allowing even more growth. The unfurling of new leaves in spring is timed carefully. Too early, and a late frost might kill the tender tissue. Too late, and the plant misses precious weeks of growing season. Plants have evolved sophisticated mechanisms to sense temperature patterns and day length, ensuring they leaf out at the optimal moment. The first leaves of spring on a deciduous tree are often a different shade of green than summer leaves, paler, more yellowish. This is because they're still building up their full complement of chlorophyll. As the season progresses, the leaves darken as more chlorophyll is produced, maximizing their ability to capture light. Some plants are shade tolerant, meaning they can photosynthesize efficiently, even in low light. Their leaves often have more chlorophyll per unit area, packed more densely to catch every available photon. Other plants are shade intolerant. They need full sun to thrive. Their leaves are adapted for bright conditions and can't photosynthesize efficiently in dimmer light. This creates a natural succession in disturbed areas. After a forest is cleared or a field is abandoned, sun-loving plants move in first. They grow quickly in the abundant light, using their efficient photosynthesis to establish themselves. But as they grow, they create shade, and eventually shade-tolerant species begin to appear beneath them. Over decades or centuries, the shade-tolerant plants may grow tall enough to overtop the sun-loving pioneers, creating a mature forest where the understory is dim and only the most shade-adapted plants can survive. This succession is driven by photosynthesis, by different plants' varying abilities to capture light in different conditions. In a stable ecosystem, you often see vertical layering. The tallest trees form a canopy, photosynthesizing in full sun. Below them, smaller trees and shrubs capture the filtered light that makes it through. Closer to the ground, shade-adapted herbs and ferns make do with the dappled patches of sunlight that reach the forest floor. Each layer is precisely adapted to its level of light. Walk through an old-growth forest, and you can feel the difference as you move from a sunny gap to deep shade. The temperature changes, the humidity changes, and different plants dominate each zone, each one photosynthesizing at a rate that suits the light available. Climbing vines add another dimension to this layering. They start in the shade of the forest floor, but grow upward, using trees as scaffolding to reach the brighter light of the canopy. Their leaves in the shade may be larger and thinner, adapted to capture diffuse light, while their leaves in the sun are smaller and thicker, adapted to bright conditions and potential water stress. Some vines can stretch for hundreds of feet, connecting the ground to the treetops. The same plant might have leaves photosynthesizing in nearly full sunlight at the top, and leaves working in deep shade at the bottom, all connected by a stem that transports water up and sugar down. Epiphytes, plants that grow on other plants without being parasitic, have found yet another solution to the light puzzle. Orchids, bromeliads, and ferns that grow on tree branches don't have to compete for light at ground level. They start life high in the canopy, where light is abundant. These air plants face a different challenge: access to water and nutrients. Without connection to the soil, they must capture water from rain and fog, and scavenge nutrients from dust and organic debris that accumulates on the bark. But the trade-off is worth it for the abundant light they receive, which powers productive photosynthesis. The efficiency of photosynthesis can be measured, and scientists have done so for thousands of plant species. They use devices that measure how much carbon dioxide a plant absorbs and how much oxygen it releases. The results reveal the incredible productivity of the plant world. A healthy crop field can produce several tons of plant material per acre in a single growing season. All of it built from air, water, and sunlight through photosynthesis. A tropical rainforest can produce even more, at up to 10 tons per acre per year, sustained year-round by continuous photosynthesis. These numbers represent not just plant material, but also oxygen produced and carbon dioxide removed from the atmosphere. Photosynthesis is one of the planet's most important carbon sinks. It takes carbon from the air and locks it into plant tissue, helping to regulate atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. When plants die and decompose, much of that carbon is released back into the atmosphere. But some of it gets incorporated into soil organic matter, where it can persist for years or even centuries. Over time, this process of carbon capture and storage has helped shape Earth's climate and atmosphere. The coal deposits that formed hundreds of millions of years ago came from vast forests that captured carbon through photosynthesis and then were buried before they could fully decompose. The oil deposits formed from tiny marine organisms that photosynthesized in ancient seas. These fossil fuels are essentially stored sunlight captured long ago and preserved underground. Today's plants continue this work, capturing carbon and producing oxygen. A single large tree might sequester a ton of carbon over its lifetime, carbon that would otherwise be in the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Forests, grasslands, and wetlands are collectively removing billions of tons of carbon from the air each year through photosynthesis. This doesn't mean that photosynthesis alone can solve modern carbon emissions. We produce far more carbon dioxide through burning fossil fuels than plants can reabsorb. But it does mean that protecting and expanding forests and other plant-rich ecosystems is crucial for helping to balance the carbon cycle. Every tree planted is a new photosynthesizer, a new oxygen producer, a new carbon sink. Every garden, every green roof, every roadside planting contributes to the collective work of capturing sunlight and turning it into life while cleaning the air. And it's not just about climate or carbon. The oxygen released by photosynthesis is what allows all animal life, including us, to exist. The food produced by photosynthesis is the foundation of nearly every food web on Earth. The beauty of green growing things enriches our lives in ways both practical and spiritual. Consider the incredible journey of a carbon atom. It might begin as part of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, a molecule drifting on the wind. A gentle breeze carries it to a forest where it encounters a leaf. Through one of those tiny pores, it enters the leaf's interior and finds its way to a chloroplast. There, energized by captured sunlight, it joins with other atoms to become part of a glucose molecule, sugar. This sugar molecule might be transported to a growing branch, incorporated into cellulose, and become part of the tree's structure. That carbon atom, pulled from the air, is now solid wood. Years or decades later, perhaps the branch falls. Fungi and bacteria decompose it, breaking down the cellulose and releasing the carbon back into the soil or atmosphere. Or perhaps the branch stays intact and the carbon remains locked in wood for centuries, until the tree eventually falls and slowly returns its borrowed carbon to the earth. This is the poetry of photosynthesis. It's not just chemistry, but transformation. Air becomes solid, light becomes matter, the intangible becomes real, and all of it happens silently, peacefully, in every leaf around you. The chloroplasts themselves have their own fascinating story. Scientists believe they were once independent bacteria capable of photosynthesis that were engulfed by larger cells billions of years ago. Instead of being digested, these bacteria formed a partnership with their host cells, eventually becoming permanent residents. Today, every chloroplast in every plant cell is a descendant of those ancient bacteria. They have their own DNA, separate from the plant's nuclear DNA, which proves their origin as once independent organisms. They reproduce inside the cell by dividing, just as bacteria do. This partnership, called endosymbiosis, transformed life on Earth. Without it, there would be no plants, no oxygen-rich atmosphere, no forests or grasslands, or the animals that depend on them. The merger of two simple organisms billions of years ago made complex life possible. Inside each chloroplast, the machinery of photosynthesis is organized into stacks of membrane-bound compartments called thylakoids. These stacks, called grana, are where the light reactions of photosynthesis occur. The green chlorophyll molecules are embedded in these membranes, positioned perfectly to catch light and begin the energy transformation. The thylakoid membranes are folded and stacked to maximize surface area in the limited space inside the chloroplast. It's similar to how our lungs are folded into millions of tiny air sacs to maximize surface area for gas exchange. Evolution has repeatedly discovered that folding is an efficient way to pack a lot of functional surface into a small volume. Between the thylakoid stacks is a fluid called the stroma, where the carbon fixation reactions occur, where carbon dioxide is actually incorporated into sugar molecules. The two parts of photosynthesis, the light reactions and the carbon fixation reactions, happen in these different compartments but work together seamlessly. Photons strike the chlorophyll in the thylakoid membranes, energizing electrons. These energized electrons move through a chain of proteins, releasing energy at each step. This energy is used to pump hydrogen ions across the membrane, creating a concentration gradient. More ions on one side than the other. The hydrogen ions then flow back across the membrane through a special protein complex called ATP synthase, P, which works like a tiny turbine. As the ions flow through, they cause the protein to spin, and this spinning generates ATP, the universal energy currency of cells. It's a molecular power plant, driven by the movement of ions, which was originally driven by sunlight. The ATP produced this way, along with another energy-carrying molecule called NADPH, provides the power for the carbon fixation reactions in the stroma. There, an enzyme called rubisco, the most abundant protein on Earth, catalyzes the attachment of carbon dioxide to a 5-carbon sugar. This creates an unstable 6-carbon compound that immediately splits into 2 3-carbon molecules. These are then modified using the energy from ATP and NADPH into various sugars and other compounds the plant needs. Some of these sugars are used immediately, while others are linked together into starch for storage. Rubisco is crucial, but not perfect. It sometimes makes mistakes and grabs oxygen instead of carbon dioxide, which leads to a wasteful process called photorespiration. Plants have evolved various mechanisms to minimize this problem, but it remains a limit on photosynthetic efficiency. Scientists studying artificial photosynthesis are trying to design better enzymes that don't make this mistake. If they succeed, they might create systems even more efficient than natural photosynthesis. But So far, despite decades of research, nature's solution remains superior to anything we've engineered. The wavelengths of light that chlorophyll absorbs best, red and blue, are at opposite ends of the visible spectrum. This is why plants often appear greenish-blue or red-purple under artificial lights designed for photosynthesis. These lights are providing the exact colors that chlorophyll uses most effectively, without wasting energy on green wavelengths that would just be reflected. Interestingly, some plants have adapted to use green light more efficiently. Understory plants in forests, receiving only filtered light that's predominantly green, have modified chlorophylls or additional pigments that can capture some of these green wavelengths. It's a way of making use of the light that the canopy trees don't need. The intensity of light also matters. Too little, and photosynthesis is limited by lack of energy. Too much, and the plant's photosynthetic machinery can become overwhelmed or even damaged. Plants have various protective mechanisms to deal with excess light, including special pigments that dissipate extra energy as heat. On a very bright day, you might notice that some leaves appear to droop or fold slightly. This is sometimes a protective response. By changing their angle to the sun, leaves can reduce the amount of light they're receiving, preventing damage to their photosynthetic machinery. It's like squinting in bright light. Some plants, like the prayer plant, move their leaves dramatically between day and night. They spread their leaves horizontally during the day to maximize light capture, then fold them upward at night. This movement, called nyctinasty, is thought to reduce water loss or help dew collect more effectively, but it also shows how actively plants manage their relationship with light. Photosynthesis responds quickly to changes in light. When a cloud passes over the sun, photosynthesis slows within seconds. When the sun emerges again, it ramps back up just as quickly. Plants are constantly adjusting, responding to the shifting conditions of each moment. This responsiveness is regulated by elaborate feedback mechanisms. If the light reactions are producing energy faster than the carbon fixation reactions can use it, the excess energy is safely dissipated. If carbon dioxide is scarce, the plant may partially close its pores, even though this slows photosynthesis, to prevent excessive water loss. These balancing acts happen automatically, regulated by the plant's biochemistry. There's no central control, no decision-making, just a complex web of chemical signals and responses that has evolved over millions of years to optimize the plant's survival. The products of photosynthesis aren't just used by the plant that made them. When leaves fall in autumn, they carry their stored carbon and nutrients to the forest floor. Decomposers break them down, releasing nutrients back into the soil, where they can be absorbed by plant roots, continuing the cycle. This leaf litter also becomes home to countless small organisms, insects, worms, fungi, bacteria, all of which depend directly or indirectly on the organic matter created by photosynthesis. The entire forest floor ecosystem is built on fallen leaves and dead wood, all of which originated as air and sunlight captured by green leaves. In aquatic ecosystems, the pattern is similar. Phytoplankton photosynthesize in the sunlit surface waters, producing oxygen and organic matter. When they die or are eaten, their carbon sinks toward the depths. Some is recycled quickly by bacteria and other organisms. Some settles to the bottom, feeding communities of creatures that live in the dark ocean depths. Even in the deepest parts of the ocean, miles below the surface where no sunlight penetrates, life depends ultimately on photosynthesis happening far above. Organic particles drift slowly down from the sunlit surface waters like a gentle snow, carrying carbon that was captured by photosynthesis. This quote, too, feeds the deep sea ecosystems. There are exceptions, ecosystems based on chemosynthesis rather than photosynthesis, clustered around deep sea hydrothermal vents or cold seeps. But these are rare and isolated. The vast majority of life on Earth, in ocean or on land, traces its energy back to photosynthesis. The oxygen in our atmosphere is itself a product of photosynthesis. Before photosynthetic organisms evolved, Earth's atmosphere contained very little oxygen. It was those tiny cyanobacteria multiplying in ancient oceans that gradually transformed the atmosphere into one where oxygen-breathing organisms could thrive. This transformation took hundreds of millions of years. The first oxygen produced by photosynthesis reacted with iron dissolved in the oceans, creating rust that settled to the sea floor. These ancient rust deposits, called banded iron formations, are evidence of Earth's first photosynthesizers at work. Only after all the ocean iron was oxidized did oxygen begin to accumulate in the atmosphere. This rise in atmospheric oxygen was both a catastrophe and an opportunity. For organisms adapted to a low oxygen world, it was toxic. Many went extinct. But for organisms that could use oxygen for metabolism, it opened up new possibilities. Oxygen-based metabolism is much more efficient than anaerobic metabolism. It allows organisms to extract far more energy from food. This energy boom may have enabled the evolution of complex multicellular life. Animals, plants, fungi, all of which depend on oxygen for their energy needs. And all that oxygen, every molecule of it, was produced by photosynthesis. Every breath you take contains oxygen that was made in a leaf or by a microscopic alga, released as a byproduct of capturing sunlight. It's humbling to think that something as essential as breathing depends entirely on the quiet work of plants and photosynthetic microorganisms. The amount of oxygen in the atmosphere remains relatively stable because photosynthesis and respiration are roughly balanced. Plants and algae produce oxygen through photosynthesis. Animals, fungi, and bacteria consume oxygen through respiration. On average, over the whole planet, these processes balance out. But locally and seasonally, there can be variations. In the summer, when plant growth is vigorous, oxygen levels in a forest might rise slightly. At night, when photosynthesis stops, but respiration continues, oxygen levels might dip very slightly. These fluctuations are small and generally imperceptible, but they're real. In a well-sealed greenhouse on a sunny day, oxygen levels can rise noticeably as plants photosynthesize vigorously. The air might feel fresher, crisper. This is partly psychological, but it's also partly real. You're breathing air that's freshly enriched with oxygen from the plants around you. Photosynthesis also absorbs carbon dioxide, which is important for regulating Earth's temperature. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It traps heat in the atmosphere. By removing carbon dioxide and storing carbon in plant tissue, photosynthesis helps to cool the planet. When forests are cut down and burned, the carbon they stored is released back into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. This contributes to rising atmospheric carbon dioxide levels and global warming. Protecting existing forests and planting new ones is a way to use photosynthesis to help stabilize the climate. It's estimated that the world's forests store hundreds of billions of tons of carbon that was captured from the atmosphere through photosynthesis over decades or centuries. Old-growth forests are particularly valuable carbon stores because the trees have been accumulating carbon for hundreds of years. Grasslands and wetlands also store significant carbon, much of it in their soils rather than in above-ground plant tissue. The plants photosynthesize, capturing carbon, and as they die, much of that carbon becomes part of the soil organic matter, where it can persist for long periods. Peatlands are especially important carbon stores. In these waterlogged ecosystems, dead plant material doesn't fully decompose because of the lack of oxygen underwater. It accumulates as peat, partially decomposed organic matter, which can be many feet thick and thousands of years old. All that stored carbon was originally captured through photosynthesis. The oceans also play a crucial role in carbon cycling. Phytoplankton photosynthesize in the surface waters, absorbing carbon dioxide. Some of this carbon sinks to the ocean depths when the phytoplankton die or are eaten and excreted by other organisms. This biological carbon pump helps to regulate atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. If phytoplankton photosynthesis were to decrease due to ocean warming or acidification, for example, less carbon would be removed from the atmosphere, potentially accelerating climate change. Conversely, in some past eras when photosynthesis was particularly vigorous, carbon dioxide levels dropped dramatically, leading to global cooling. The history of life on Earth is intimately tied to the history of photosynthesis. Major transitions in climate, atmospheric composition, and the evolution of life itself have all been influenced by photosynthesis and its effects on the planet. Today, as we face challenges like climate change and loss of biodiversity, photosynthesis remains as important as ever. By protecting and restoring ecosystems where photosynthesis thrives, forests, grasslands, wetlands, coral reefs, we're not just preserving beautiful landscapes, we're maintaining the very processes that make Earth habitable. Every garden, every park, every tree-lined street is a small contribution to the planet's photosynthetic capacity. Urban trees absorb carbon dioxide, produce oxygen, filter pollutants from the air, and cool their surroundings through transpiration. They're working ecosystems, performing vital services while also providing beauty and shade. Green roofs and living walls bring photosynthesis to places where there would otherwise be only concrete and asphalt. A layer of plants on a rooftop is insulating the building, managing stormwater, providing habitat for insects and birds, and photosynthesize, contributing its small share to air quality and carbon absorption. Even a single potted plant on a windowsill is photosynthesizing, taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. The effect is tiny, but it's real. And multiplied across millions of homes and offices, these small green presences collectively make a difference. Photosynthesis connects us to the cosmos in a profound way. The energy that powers it comes from the sun, from nuclear fusion happening 93 million miles away. That energy travels through the vacuum of space as light, crosses our atmosphere, and is captured by chlorophyll molecules in leaves. In a very real sense, when you eat food, you're consuming sunlight that has been transformed by photosynthesis. The calories that power your body originated as photons from a distant star, captured and stored by plants. We are all, in this sense, made of starlight. The carbon atoms in your body were once carbon dioxide in the air. Photosynthesis incorporated them into plants. You ate those plants, or ate animals that ate plants. And now, those carbon atoms are part of you. When you exhale, some of those carbon atoms go back into the air as carbon dioxide, ready to be captured again by photosynthesis. This cycling of matter through living and non-living systems is one of the fundamental patterns of nature. Atoms are borrowed temporarily to build a body or a tree, then released and used again. Photosynthesis is a crucial part of this cycle, the process that takes atmospheric carbon and makes it available to the living world. Nitrogen, too, cycles through ecosystems, though it's not directly captured by photosynthesis. Plants need nitrogen to make proteins, including the proteins in chloroplasts that perform photosynthesis. They get this nitrogen from the soil, but it originally comes from the atmosphere, fixed into usable forms by specialized bacteria. When plants photosynthesize vigorously, they need more nitrogen to build new leaves and proteins. So photosynthesis and nitrogen cycling are linked. Each enables the other. A nutrient-poor soil might limit photosynthesis, not because of lack of light or water, but because the plant can't make enough chlorophyll without adequate nitrogen. Farmers and gardeners have long understood this connection. Adding nitrogen fertilizer helps plants grow more vigorously, which means more photosynthesis, which means more growth, a positive feedback loop. But too much fertilizer can cause problems, with excess nitrogen washing into waterways and causing pollution. Nature's balance is usually more subtle. In a mature ecosystem, nutrients are recycled efficiently. Dead leaves fall and decompose, releasing nitrogen and other nutrients back into the soil. Plants take them up, use them to build new tissue, photosynthesize, and eventually return the nutrients to the soil when leaves fall again. This tight recycling is one reason why old-growth ecosystems can be so productive even on nutrient-poor soils. Very little is lost. Nearly everything is reused. The system becomes efficient through age and stability, with photosynthesis and decomposition working in harmony. In tropical rainforests, this efficiency is extreme. The soil may be poor in nutrients because everything is locked up in living tissue, but when a leaf falls, it's decomposed within days or weeks, and its nutrients are immediately reabsorbed by the shallow root systems of surrounding plants. The nutrients barely touch the soil before being cycled back into living tissue. This rapid cycling is powered by the warm, wet conditions that also enable year-round photosynthesis. The same climate that allows constant growth also promotes constant decomposition, creating a fast-spinning wheel of nutrients and energy, all ultimately driven by sunlight captured through photosynthesis. In temperate forests, the cycle is slower, but no less elegant. Leaves fall in autumn and lie on the forest floor through winter. In spring, as temperatures rise and moisture is abundant, decomposition accelerates. Nutrients are released just as the trees above are producing new leaves and need those nutrients to fuel photosynthesis. The timing is not coincidence. It's the result of millions of years of evolution in seasonal climates. The entire ecosystem is synchronized to the cycle of seasons, with photosynthesis, decomposition, and growth all following the same annual rhythm. Grasslands have their own patterns. The above-ground parts of grasses may die back seasonally, but the roots often remain alive, storing sugar produced by photosynthesis during the growing season. In spring, these stored reserves fuel rapid new growth, producing leaves that can photosynthesize and create even more sugar. Grasses are particularly good at photosynthesis because their leaves grow from the base rather than the tip. This means that when a grazing animal eats the top part of the grass can continue growing from the base. It doesn't have to start over with new leaves. It just extends the existing leaves, which can photosynthesize as soon as they emerge from the grazed zone. This adaptation has allowed grasslands to support vast populations of grazing animals. The grass photosynthesizes, producing energy. Animals eat the grass, converting plant material into meat. Predators eat the grazing animals. And when any of these animals die, their bodies decompose and return nutrients to the soil, where grasses take them up to fuel more photosynthesis. It's a web of connections, all ultimately powered by photosynthesis. Remove the photosynthesizers, and the entire system collapses. They are the foundation, the primary producers, converting sunlight into a form that all other organisms can use, even in ecosystems that seem hostile to life. Hot deserts, frozen tundra, salt flats. Photosynthesis finds a way. Desert succulents wait for rare rains and then photosynthesize vigorously while water is available. Tundra plants complete their entire annual cycle: growth, photosynthesis, flowering, seed production. In the brief Arctic summer, when the sun never sets, salt marsh grasses tolerate daily inundation by seawater, photosynthesizing even when their roots are in salty mud that would kill most plants. Alpine plants survive harsh conditions at high elevations, where intense UV radiation and temperature extremes challenge photosynthesis. Yet they persist, blooming brilliantly in the brief mountain summer. Photosynthesis has shaped the evolution of plants in countless ways. The need to capture light has driven the development of leaves in all their incredible diversity, from tiny scales to enormous fronds, from simple ovals to complex lobed or compound structures. Leaf shape affects photosynthesis in many ways. A broad, flat leaf captures lots of light, but may overheat in bright sun. A needle-like leaf is less efficient at capturing light, but loses less water and is less likely to be damaged by wind or snow. Each shape is a compromise, optimized for the specific conditions where that plant lives. The arrangement of leaves on a stem also reflects photosynthetic needs. Opposite leaves, pairs of leaves, emerging from the same point on opposite sides of the stem, are common. So are alternate leaves spiraling around the stem. Both patterns help ensure that each leaf receives adequate light without being shaded too much by its neighbors. Some plants have compound leaves divided into smaller leaflets. This can help reduce wind damage, improve air circulation around the leaf surfaces, and allow light to penetrate deeper into the plant's canopy. It's another way of optimizing the trade-offs between light capture, water loss, and structural stability. The veins in a leaf are not just for show. They're the plumbing that makes photosynthesis possible. They carry water from the roots to the photosynthesizing cells and carry sugar from the leaves to the rest of the plant. The pattern of veins is often distinctive enough to identify a plant species. Parallel veins, common in grasses and other monocots, provide multiple pathways for water and sugar transport. The net-like or reticulated veins of dicots create a fine meshwork that ensures every part of the leaf is well supplied with water and can export the sugar it produces. Under a microscope, a cross-section of a leaf reveals layers of cells specialized for different functions. The upper epidermis is often coated with a waxy cuticle to reduce water loss. Below that are layers of tightly packed palisade cells full of chloroplasts, where most photosynthesis occurs. Beneath the palisade layer is the spongy mesophyll, with loosely arranged cells and large air spaces. This structure allows carbon dioxide to diffuse throughout the leaf's interior, reaching all the photosynthesizing cells. The lower epidermis contains most of the stomata, those tiny pores that let carbon dioxide in and oxygen out. This layered structure is remarkably efficient. Light penetrates from above, striking the chloroplast-rich palisade cells first. Any light that passes through is scattered by the spongy mesophyll, giving it additional chances to be absorbed. Carbon dioxide diffuses in from below, spreading through the air spaces to reach photosynthesizing cells throughout the leaf. The stomata themselves are marvels of biological engineering. Each stoma, singular of stomata, consists of 2 guard cells that can change shape to open or close the pore between them. When the plant needs to take in carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, the guard cells swell with water, creating an opening. When water is scarce and the plant needs to conserve, the guard cells lose water and collapse together, closing the pore. This control is exquisite and responsive. On a hot day, stomata may close partially to conserve water, even though this reduces photosynthesis. In the cooler evening, they may open wider, allowing the plant to take in carbon dioxide when water loss is less of a concern. In cam plants, as mentioned earlier, the stomata are open at night and closed during the day. The regulation of stomata involves complex signaling. Hormones carry messages about water availability from the roots. Light sensors detect whether it's day or night. Carbon dioxide sensors measure the concentration of CO2 inside the leaf. All of these inputs are integrated, and the stomata respond accordingly, opening, closing, or staying partially open to optimize the balance between photosynthesis and water conservation. A single leaf might have hundreds of thousands of stomata, each making these minute adjustments hundreds of times a day. Collectively, they regulate the leaf's gas exchange and water loss, allowing photosynthesis to proceed at the optimal rate given the current conditions. The lifespan of a leaf varies tremendously. Some tropical trees shed and replace their leaves gradually throughout the year, with each leaf lasting perhaps 6 months to a year. Deciduous trees in temperate climates grow a full set of leaves each spring and drop them all in autumn, a lifespan of one growing season. Evergreen trees keep their leaves for multiple years. A pine needle might live for 2 to 5 years before being shed and replaced. During that time, it photosynthesizes through multiple growing seasons, gradually becoming less efficient as it ages, but still contributing to the tree's energy budget. Some plants have leaves that live for decades. The welwitschia, a strange plant from the Namib Desert, produces only 2 leaves in its entire lifetime, which can span 1,000 years or more. These leaves grow continuously from their base, becoming tattered and split at the ends, but their base remains alive and photosynthesizing for centuries. The longest-lived leaves known belong to certain Antarctic mosses, which can remain alive and photosynthetically active for decades or even centuries in the extreme cold. They photosynthesize very slowly during the brief Antarctic summer, then go dormant but alive through the dark winter, repeating this cycle for longer than most trees live. Regardless of lifespan, every leaf has the same basic function: to capture light and use it to power the synthesis of sugar from carbon dioxide and water. This unity of purpose, expressed through infinite variation in form and strategy, is one of the beautiful patterns of the living world. Photosynthesis has also influenced the evolution of other organisms. The green color of many caterpillars may provide camouflage among leaves. Some caterpillars even photosynthesize themselves, thanks to chloroplasts they've stolen from the plants they eat, a phenomenon called kleptoplasty. Certain sea slugs are famous for this. They eat algae, digest most of the cells, but keep the chloroplasts, which they store in their own tissues. These stolen chloroplasts continue photosynthesizing inside the slug, providing it with a supplemental source of energy. The slugs become solar-powered, at least partially. This is rare and remarkable. Most animals can't maintain functional chloroplasts. But these sea slugs have evolved the ability to protect the chloroplasts and provide them with what they need. It's a form of symbiosis, though temporary, as the chloroplasts eventually wear out and must be replaced by eating more algae. Some corals have a more permanent photosynthetic partnership. They host algae called zooxanthellae inside their tissues. The algae photosynthesize, producing sugar that they share with the coral. In return, the coral provides the algae with protection and access to sunlight. This partnership is so successful that coral reefs, built by these partnerships, are among the most productive ecosystems on Earth. When corals bleach, turning white, it's because they've expelled their zooxanthellae, often due to stress from warm water temperatures. Without their photosynthetic partners, the corals lose their main source of food and may starve. Bleaching is a visible sign of a broken partnership, and it highlights how crucial photosynthesis is to the entire reef ecosystem. Lichens are another photosynthetic partnership. They're not a single organism, but a symbiosis between a fungus and either algae or cyanobacteria. The photosynthetic partner provides sugar through photosynthesis, and the fungus provides structure and protection. Together, they can survive in extreme environments where neither could live alone. Lichens grow on bare rock, on tree bark, even on man-made structures. They're often the first organisms to colonize new surfaces. Their photosynthesis is slow. Lichens may grow only a millimeter or two per year, but they're patient and persistent. Some individual lichens are thousands of years old, quietly photosynthesizing on the same rock for millennia. In the Arctic and Antarctic, lichens are major primary producers, organisms that capture energy through photosynthesis and make it available to the rest of the ecosystem. Caribou and reindeer graze on lichens in winter when other food is scarce. The energy in those lichens came from photosynthesis captured during the brief polar summer. Mosses, too, are important photosynthesizers, especially in cold or wet environments. A moss carpet in a boreal forest is actively photosynthesizing, absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. Mosses can photosynthesize at lower temperatures than most vascular plants, allowing them to be active in spring and fall when trees are still dormant. In the tropics, epiphytic mosses and liverworts drape trees, adding a layer of photosynthetic activity high in the canopy. They capture moisture from frequent rains and from the humidity of the forest air, and they photosynthesize whenever there's enough light and water. Ferns, ancient plants that dominated forests long before flowering plants evolved, are still successful photosynthesizers today. Some ferns have enormous fronds. The ostrich fern's fronds can be 6 feet long. These large fronds are solar collectors, capturing as much light as possible in the shaded understory of forests. Other ferns have adapted to extreme environments. The resurrection fern can dry to the point of appearing dead, then spring back to life and resume photosynthesis within hours of receiving water. It survives by being able to shut down completely and then restart photosynthesis rapidly when conditions improve. Aquatic ferns like mosquito fern, Azolla, float on the surface of ponds and slow streams. They photosynthesize vigorously and can grow so quickly that they cover entire water surfaces. Azolla has its own symbiotic cyanobacteria living in cavities in its leaves, providing the fern with nitrogen, while the fern provides the bacteria with shelter and access to sunlight. The diversity of photosynthesizers is staggering, from microscopic phytoplankton to giant sequoias, from mosses to mangroves, from desert cacti to rainforest orchids, all using the same basic process of capturing light and combining carbon dioxide and water to make sugar and oxygen. Each has adapted photosynthesis to its particular lifestyle and environment, but the core process remains the same. It's a reminder of the unity underlying the diversity of life. We're all related, all using variations of the same biological mechanisms, all descended from common ancestors that lived billions of years ago. Photosynthesis is sometimes called the most important biochemical process on Earth, and it's hard to argue. It's the foundation of the food web, the source of atmospheric oxygen, a major regulator of climate, and the process that allows life to harness the energy of the sun. Without photosynthesis, Earth would be a barren planet, unable to support complex life. The atmosphere would lack oxygen, making aerobic respiration impossible. There would be no plants, no animals, no fungi beyond perhaps some primitive forms living on chemical energy from volcanic vents or radioactive decay. With photosynthesis, Earth is transformed into a green world teeming with life in countless forms. The land is clothed in forests and grasslands. The oceans bloom with phytoplankton, and all of it is ultimately powered by sunlight, captured and transformed by the quiet miracle happening in every green cell. As you breathe in and out, you're participating in this ancient cycle. You breathe in oxygen made by photosynthesis. You breathe out carbon dioxide, which plants will use for photosynthesis. Your body runs on energy from food, which came from photosynthesis. You are connected to every green thing by these invisible threads of breath and energy. On a larger scale, the entire biosphere is connected through photosynthesis. The Amazon rainforest photosynthesizes and releases oxygen that might reach you thousands of miles away. Phytoplankton in the Pacific Ocean photosynthesize and influence atmospheric carbon dioxide levels that affect climate globally. Your houseplant photosynthesizes and contributes its tiny share to the air you breathe. These connections are real, even if invisible. The air is a commons shared by all breathing things. The carbon and oxygen and water molecules cycle through living and non-living systems, connecting all of us across space and time. A water molecule in your body right now might have been part of a dinosaur once. Before that, it might have been absorbed by a fern during the Carboniferous period and used in photosynthesis. After you, it might become part of a cloud, fall as rain, be absorbed by a tree, and be split apart in photosynthesis to release its oxygen. The same is true of carbon atoms. The carbon in your cells was once carbon dioxide in the air, captured by photosynthesis and incorporated into plant tissue. You ate that plant, or an animal, that ate that plant. And now the carbon is part of you. When you exhale, some of it returns to the air, ready to be captured again. This cycling has been going on for billions of years. The atoms in your body have been through countless organisms, countless cycles of photosynthesis and respiration, eating and being eaten, growth and decay. You are made of recycled star stuff, arranged temporarily into the pattern that is you. Photosynthesis is part of what makes this grand recycling possible. It captures carbon from the air and makes it part of the living world. When living things die and decompose, the carbon is released and can be captured again. The cycle continues, endless and beautiful. Understanding photosynthesis deepens appreciation for the green world. Every leaf is a factory, a solar panel, an air purifier, a work of art. Every plant is working to capture sunlight and turn it into life, contributing to the air we breathe and the food we eat. And so we return to where we began, to that single leaf somewhere near you catching light. Right now, in this very moment, photosynthesis is happening. In the tree outside your window, in the grass by the sidewalk, in forests across continents, in oceans covering most of the earth. Billions upon billions of chloroplasts are capturing photons, splitting water, combining carbon and hydrogen into sugar, releasing oxygen. It's happening silently, peacefully, without fanfare or recognition. Just the steady, patient work of turning light into life, repeated over and over, millions of times every second. Everywhere green things grow. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to understand every detail. You just have to breathe. And somewhere, a plant is making the oxygen you need. You just have to exist. And the green world continues its ancient work, supporting you, sustaining you, connected to you through invisible threads of breath and light. Take a slow breath in now. Feel the air fill your lungs. Some of that oxygen was made today by photosynthesis. Some particle of light traveled 93 million miles from the sun, touched a leaf, and became the very air you're breathing. It's a quiet miracle, a gentle gift. The whisper of leaves in sunlight, the soft green world, working always, resting never, turning starlight into the breath of life. You can close your eyes now if you'd like. Rest in the knowledge that the world is breathing with you. The plants breathe out as you breathe in. You breathe out as they breathe in. It's a conversation that needs no words. A partnership older than mountains. A dance of light and life that will continue long after this moment fades. The green world is all around you, working its silent magic. And you are part of it, woven into the great web of breath and light, held safely in the gentle rhythm of photosynthesis. Rest now, breathe slowly, and let the peaceful work of the green world carry you softly into sleep.